Imagine you wake up tomorrow and hear rain against your window. No big deal, right? Grab an umbrella. But then it rains again, the next day, and the next, and the next. Not for a week, not for a year, not even for a century, but for 2 million years straight. Sounds like the worst forecast in history. But this actually happened. Roughly 234 million years ago, Earth entered a bizarre chapter called the Carnian Pluvial episode. For 2 million years, the planet was drenched in endless rain. It flooded deserts, erased old rulers of the world, and cleared the stage for the rise of dinosaurs. Scientists sometimes call it the wet intermezzo, which honestly sounds less like a climate disaster and more like a failed jazz album. To understand why 2 million years of rain was such a big deal, let's set the stage. We are in the early Triassic, about 250 million years ago. Earth was still reeling from the Permian extinction, also known as the Great Dying. This was the worst mass extinction in history. Around 90% of all the species had vanished. Imagine Earth as a stage where most of the actors have walked off mid-play. The spotlight's still on, the set is still standing, but the cast is nearly gone. All the land on Earth was fused into one enormous supercontinent, Pangea. Pangea stretched from pole to pole, surrounded by a single giant ocean, Panthalassa. The interior was bone dry, rain clouds rarely made it past the coasts. Temperatures soared, oceans were warm enough to feel like hot tubs, and with no major mountains to stir the atmosphere, weather patterns were stagnant. It was Earth on hard mode, flat, hot, and endlessly dry. Despite the harshness, life clawed its way back. The Triassic was a time of evolutionary experimentation. Weird, wonderful, and sometimes terrifying creatures prowled the land, swarmed the rivers, and flew through the skies. Crurotarsans. These were cousins of crocodiles, but don't picture modern swamp crocs. The Triassic versions were evolutionary overachievers. Some were armored tanks, some were sleek sprinters, some even ran on two legs like greyhounds. Rhynchosaurs. Herbivores with parrot-like beaks, barrel-shaped bodies, and strong jaw muscles that made them look permanently smug. They were absurdly stressful. In some places, their fossils make up over half of all animals found. Think of them as the cows of the Triassic, grazing in herds, only with faces that look like they just roasted you in a group chat. Dicynodonts. These were tusked, scaly proto-mammals. Some were pig-sized, others the size of elephants. They had turtle-like beaks and faces that looked like someone drew a hippo from memory after one too many drinks. Despite the goofy look, they were survivors. Lystrosaurus, a type of dicynodont, was so widespread that its fossils were found on multiple continents, helping scientists to prove that all land had once been joined in Pangea. So, around 234 million years ago, something dramatic happened. The climate shifted, the skies opened, and it began to rain. At first, maybe it just seemed like an unusually stormy season, but the rain didn't stop, not for years and not even for centuries, it just kept coming. In modern Utah, annual rainfall quadrupled, reaching around 55 inches a year, rainforest levels. Swamps spread where deserts had been, lakes swelled into inland seas, rivers carved new channels across the land. And this wasn't just one region. Evidence of the rain appears all over Europe, Asia, North America, and even far reaches of Pangea. For 2 million years, the Earth was drenched. This wasn't a one-time catastrophe, it was a climate reset, a planetary monsoon that turned deserts into swamps and forests. For animals adapted to drought, this was the apocalypse. The first things to change were the plants. Dry adapted ferns and shrubs gave way to towering conifers. Imagine pine tree forests stretching for miles, fueled by endless rain. This change in vegetation reshaped the food chain. Herbivores that had thrived on low, soft plants now faced towering woody trees. Rhynchosaurs collapsed. These low-level grazers were great at eating ferns, but in a world of tall, woody conifers, they were helpless. Dicynodonts also struggled. Their turtle-like beaks and lack of stomach stones made them terrible at digesting food. Fossilized poop shows they stuck to soft plants, but as ferns dwindled, so did they. But dinosaurs got lucky. Dinosaurs had the right tools at that time. They had teeth and gastroliths, stones that swallowed to grind plants. Their fossilized droppings show diets packed with wood. In short, dinosaurs weren't picky. They could eat the buffet, the table, and probably part of the chair. As rhynchosaurs and dicynodonts starved, dinosaurs thrived. And when herbivores collapsed, so did their predators, the once mighty cruratarsans. Dinosaurs, once background extras, stepped into the spotlight. By the time the rain had poured for 2 million years, Earth was transformed. Forests replaced deserts, old rulers fell, and dinosaurs rose. But this leaves two mysteries. First, what on earth caused 2 million years of non-stop rain? And second, how do we even know this happened at all? The answer is written in the rocks. Think of rocks as Earth diaries. They keep receipts for everything that's happened, and sometimes those receipts are soggy. In the early 1990s, two British geologists were studying Triassic rocks in England. They expected the usual, dry red sandstones, the kind that scream desert. Instead, they found something very different. Rounded river gravels, smoothed by rushing water. Thick lake sediments laid down layer after layer. Coal beds formed in a swampy wetlands. None of this matched the dry Triassic world they knew. Something was off. At first, skeptics shrugged. Local floods, they said. Every desert gets the occasional rainy season. But then, similar rocks were reported in Italy, in Austria, in China, everywhere. Different continents, but same story and same time period. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. This wasn't local flooding. It was a worldwide monsoon that lasted 2 million years. But what could possibly make it rain non-stop for that long? The culprit wasn't water. It was fire. Around 235 million years ago, in what's now Alaska and British Columbia, massive volcanic eruptions began. Lava flows piled over 6 kilometers thick. The eruptions lasted for more than 5 million years. They belched out unimaginable amounts of carbon dioxide. Global temperatures rose by 3 to 10 degrees Celsius. The oceans warmed. The atmosphere thickened with moisture. And when the air holds more moisture, the water cycle goes into overdrive. Evaporation, condensation, rainfall, everything intensifies. The result was a planetary monsoon. For 2 million years, the skies refused to close. Eventually, the eruptions slowed. Earth's natural systems kicked in. Plants sucked up carbon, rocks absorbed it through weathering, the oceans locked it away in limestone. Bit by bit, the climate stabilized. The rain stopped, but by then, the damage and the opportunities were already permanent. So what happened to the Triassic cast of creatures when the skies refused to shut off? The most obvious change was the spread of conifers, ancestors of today's pine trees. With abundant rain, these towering woody plants took over. For herbivores, this was both a buffet and a nightmare. Plenty of food, but the wrong kind of food. So dinosaurs stepped forward. At the start of the Carnian Pluvial episode, dinosaurs made up just 5% of land vertebrates. By the end, they were over 90%. The story of the wet intermezzo isn't just a quirky dinosaur origin tale, it's a lesson. 2 million years of rain, triggered by volcanic carbon dioxide, reshaped the world. Winners became losers. Nobodies became rulers. It's a reminder of how fragile balance can be. Climate change doesn't just shift the weather, it rewrites the rulers of life itself. Back then, dinosaurs were the winners. So the next time you complain about a rainy weekend, remember, it could be worse. It could be 2 million years worse.